Hi guys, my name is Solis.
I'm Kobe Ayres.
Giselle Diaz.
I'm Daisy Chaidez.
I'm Martha Medina.
And today we are going to talk to you guys about a book called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot.
I feel like we mostly know about her medical records.
Hmm.
And we just know about like, oh, like the illness is just her. Like
Yeah.
she's just like we think about her and we like, oh, the cancer cells. Like that's all. Like there's no depth into her. There's no depth into her character.
I think
Yeah.
it's also really hard to find depth for her because like when Deborah was asking her brothers, like tell me about my mom, tell me about my mom,
Hmm.
and like they were and only her oldest brother like even remembered their mother because she died so
Mhm.
early on in their
When
life.
they were so young. Yeah.
It's really hard to characterize somebody when, especially because like her husband didn't even want to speak about her, and her family
Hmm.
by the time like Rebecca came around, like they had either passed or they just simply didn't want to meet with her. So it's very hard to characterize essentially a ghost or a memory.
Yeah, I do feel that as well. And like they kind of went based off of what they had, based off of probably what other people told them too, because it had been such a long time, and then for them to be able to share that with Rebecca, they're like, we probably have like little tidbits of her and we don't remember her. And because I do remember her stating about they kept on talking about the picture of Henrietta and her hair and stuff like that. Like they focus on that several times, and I'm like, do we not have any other pictures of her? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I feel like they probably didn't, and that's really sad because she was a person.
Then
Yeah.
again, something I think like Rebecca kind of like falls like into, it's kind of like a little trap, is when she uses kind of like Gila
Mm.
interchangeably for Henrietta Lacks, or she uses Helen Lane.
Yeah, Helen Lane.
Yeah, when she
Yeah.
uses that and she kind of uses those like interchangeably, I feel like it does something that quite a few other like books that we read for like Into the Wild, for like Alexander Supertramp versus McCandles, like using those two names like interchangeably,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of
Yeah.
takes away from like the identity of the person that you're talking about. And like a
No,
lot
I
of, I feel
agree.
like a lot of authors, especially when they insert themselves, they kind of tend to take liberties with the identity of the person because they project their own identity onto that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree
I feel
with
like
you.
it was really ironic because the book is about like the title is literally Henrietta's name. Yet we know like basically little to none about her.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, because you think like it's like when it's like a biography and it's like about like George Washington. Like it goes to the tiniest detail, like of their childhood, like something that we think is like unimportant, but the writer
Yeah.
was like, oh no, like their favorite snack was apples or whatever. Like, and we know like so much background about them. Yet for her, it was just
Yeah.
like, oh, this is the one picture we have of her. Like she's like a crumb in their lives. Like,
Yeah. And
Mhm.
yeah,
it's funny that you say that because with the name of the book, Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, you would
uh-huh,
expect, like you said, oh, I'm gonna get a lot of information
yeah.
about her, but it's like, nah, you really don't. And
Yeah, it's
it's
like
and it's pretty
crumbs.
sad, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then more because it's like, okay, like if I had a parent, like if my mom passed and then my children would be like, oh, what was your mom like? I would be able to give like so many details, like, oh,
Hmm.
well, your grandma was like this, like I would be able to give like endless amount of details, like videos of her, pictures of her, like oh, her favorite perfumes. Like I could even describe like, oh, this is how she's like, this
Her
was her
scent.
scent.
Yeah.
Oh, like I can
It
imagine
was.
like what they must feel like not being able to like know your mom's history or her childhood. Like,
Yeah,
yes,
I feel like in the chapter where we were learning her history, it's kind of ironic because it made me go like, oh, that's it. Like as soon as they just
Yeah.
skipped to like
Mhm.
Dave's
mhm,
history and like went into depth into his history instead and like
Yeah, yeah, you're right
Aaron-
because I was listening through it through the audiobook, right? And I was like, "Oh, okay, we're finally gonna learn a little bit about her." And it's like, "Yeah, no, not really. You're only gonna get those little tiny crumbs of her and then we're gonna go into her relationship or whatever."
yeah,
It's like, "Oh, snap. I think I heard that from here to school and it was only like half an hour." I'm like, less than that actually because it
Yeah.
was a couple of
yeah,
chapters. I'm like, "Wow, this is sad."
mhm.
But at the same time I'm like, well, hopefully Rebecca was able to do as much investigation as she could as far as her history and stuff And is this really all that's out there about her? Or like it made me think, did Rebecca purposely leave stuff out? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know. I want to say no, but I don't know. I kind of wish that that her tone was a little bit more well, just in general, we just got more history about Henrietta, rather
Hmm.
than
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
I think it's funny too because like it's okay, first they gave us like little to none about her. And then we
Hmm.
later that we learned how they took the cancer cells from her without her consent.
Hmm.
And then it benefited like history, like sorry, it benefited medical research like greatly. So it's just like first we get little to none about her. And then even in her like sickness, they didn't respect like her. Like they didn't respect her. So it's like she wasn't respected like medically, and then or her like her past memory wasn't on.
Personal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a question I kind of want to raise with that, considering the ethical stakes. So, clearly, based on this discussion, we can say that Henrietta's voice wasn't really centered and it was mostly based on the authors. And I want to ask maybe why that is, and if you guys think that the author knew that while writing the story, like, okay, yeah, I'm writing details and I don't really have a lot of information on of Henrietta. And do you guys think that she realized that she was doing that, and maybe why you think that might be why she was doing that?
I think she had to. It's a really long book.
Yeah.
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 And very little of it actually centers around Henrietta Lacks.
Hmm.
And when it does, it's very like, oh, this is how her
Process.
cousin saw her. This is how
Mhm.
so and so saw her, her oldest son. But it's never, or like this is what Deborah remembers of a retelling of a story of her mother.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
because he'll never say anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think she had to have known like there was never going to be enough information on
Yeah.
Henrietta Lacks. Ethically, it's a little like strange for me that a white woman wants to insert herself so heavily in a black woman or a person of
I was gonna
color's
say that.
life
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
way that
Yeah.
she did. And then
Yeah.
I don't want to say take advantage because she did get the story out there and she did push Henrietta Lacks's name
Hmm.
in a much better light than any other like medical article had that
Yeah.
like didn't use her name, used Gila, the acronym. So it for me, it was a little ethically, it was a little interesting
Well, and
because it
maybe
did good
invasive.
stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think an interesting point that's brought up in the story is, and maybe Kobe, you could touch base more on this, is about when she was like confronting Deborah about more information, and then also kind of like maybe the pressure that Deborah felt from all of this becoming so relevant in her life, leading to decrease in her health.
Oh yeah. Like I'm like so sure that the stress from everything is what led to Deborah's strokes. Like I have there's no doubt in my mind, I feel like, because like they were just so like gung ho about getting the files and then going straight to her
Hmm.
sister. There was no like break in between anything. And everything they were learning was like pretty negative, I feel like. It's like it could have been avoided. Like Rebecca could have like done it without her knowing about her history with the strokes and what can cause strokes and all of that. It's
Yeah.
like why bring someone who I guess they're gonna get like knowledge out of it, but you could take the stressful part out of it, gain that knowledge, and then like
And then
bring it to
give it
her
to her.
in like a much
Hmm.
easier way to like digest and stuff,
Yeah.
is my
Yeah,
idea.
I agree with you on that because I feel like she was going through like stress already. Her whole life was, we can say, like a mess, right? Deborah's. And it's like, oh, here comes Rebecca wanting to help out or whatever, right? And it's like, well, you're bringing even more stress to this poor woman.
Exactly.
Something was bound to happen, and obviously, unfortunately, she passed, right? Maybe she might have had an underlying medical condition, who knows,
Mhm.
because we don't know that either. At the very end of the book, I'm not sure if anybody else did the audiobook on Spotify. There was like a little mini interview with Rebecca talking about how she felt, about the whole book and stuff like that.
That
And
and
it's just to me, again, my opinion, it kind of just seemed a little bit performative. She was like, "Oh, I was just so sad when Deborah passed away and this and that," and I'm just like, you kind of not saying that she did it, obviously, but it's like, well, you brought upon a lot of stress to her that I personally don't think was necessary. Like you mentioned, you could have gotten all this information and then brought it to her and her family. But yeah, maybe Deborah wanted to actually do it herself too, in a way. But I mean, she had gone all those years without, so I don't know. It's just I kind of feel a way toward Rebecca, to be honest.
Yeah, and it
Just
got to a point where she like was fine with not knowing everything. She was
mhm.
like she didn't want to do all of that at one point, but Rebecca just kept going at it
And then
until
calling her and calling her.
exactly
Yeah, she
every day
mentioned that she called her like, I don't know how many times. It's like, well, damn.
It was
for like
like
a year or
borderline
something, right?
harassment.
Hmm.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I feel like she used, I don't want to say like, I don't know. I feel like she kind of used her her position as a white woman, and she saw this family not in the best situation. I feel like she just took advantage of that.
And I
Oh
think
yeah, I agree.
I feel like maybe they wouldn't have done that to like another white family.
Hmm.
And I
Mhm.
think Martha put in a really good word, like performative. I think that's how exactly I would describe it as well. Just like given her privilege and like her responsibility and everything that she can do,
Mhm.
it does come across as now reading it like in modern context a little bit performative.
Hmm.
And yeah, I would really say that I felt that this was kind of this representation of like Henrietta and her family was written like in an irresponsibly way, like their representation is
Agree.
irresponsible. And unlike other stories like in My Family Slave, where Tizian is writing about Eudocia, where and it's all based off his personal experience as well. I think he does a really good job in really trying to
Yeah,
discover who the
love that one.
person. Yeah, that was a really
Because like what Giselle was saying, like she's absolutely right. I personally got mad at Tison when I read the article
Yeah.
because he eventually did write this story and he does try to paint himself in a negative light. Like it's always going
Hmm.
to be inherently negative, but then he goes on to he only mentions Elucia's name one time. And it's in the
Hmm.
first sentence, I'm pretty sure, or the second sentence, and then he refers to her as Lola, which in Tagalog is like grandmother, and it's a respectful term. But I feel like again, like with calling Henrietta Lacks Gila, they both force them into a role they don't necessarily want.
Yeah.
And both of them coming from like a background of being underprivileged, uneducated, basically kept away from like basic needs, basic necessities. Um,
Hmm.
it kind of like allows them to be like forced into these boxes, forced into Lola and not Elucia, forced into Gila and not Henrietta Lacks.
Henrietta. Yeah.
And I think that's something that like resonates with me in like a lot of those stories, especially because it's told kind of from like the oppressor's point of view. And
Yeah,
rather
that's a good way of
than
putting it because
yeah.
it is really, yeah.
And with each person's like view, like everyone's entitled to their own sense of truth, their own sense of what is reality. And for some people, like for Rebecca Skloot, her reality was I'm here to help this family. I'm contacting them because this is what I want to do. This is what needs to be out there according to me. And she doesn't
Yeah.
take anybody else's like thoughts into account.
She had like a white savior complex, like, oh, I'm here to help, I'm here to fix everybody's lives. But it's like she
That's a good
worsened.
way of putting
Yeah.
it.
yeah, that is a
Yeah.
good way to put it. Mhm. And then I like that you touch on truth ICs because like there are multiple truths in this story when we were reviewing the assignment, like factual, cultural, emotional, symbolic, it's all in this story. And I think a culture at the time, and I'm a healthcare administration major, so like, seeing the health disparities like from back then and like even the care gaps now for people of color versus white people, it's the difference is very clear. So seeing that kind of truth revealed was not shocking, but also it was eye-opening to actually see like the biological medical records, everything that was in detail for Henrietta.
this kind of
Yeah.
goes into the idea where I feel like she is turned into a symbol of
Yeah.
like scientific progress, like ethical progress, rather than like within this book, like instead of like the actual person. Like there's so little about her. She's still referred to as like Gila, which like
Yeah.
used to anon anonymize, I think that's the word, her.
Oh,
I think so,
Uh,
yeah.
and it's still like in this book, it's kind of used in like a similar way, where it's like referring to the symbol of her and like what she's given to society.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if they mentioned this, but something like I would consider her as is like the mother of science, at least
mm,
for
Mhm.
something like this, because her cells basically helped with the polio vaccine, with HIV, with basically
Mm.
trying to
With
find cures.
everything right now,
They, yeah,
right? There's
yeah, I think that's a really special homage, and like it really does pay true respect to like all the contributions that Gila and her cells were able to do, like, or sorry, Gila, Henrietta Lacks, sorry, and her Gila cells and what they were able to do. They
yeah, she
got me.
deserved a lot more than what she's gotten.
Mm,
Even now, like, oh yeah, people know that she is the one, obviously, that contributed to it without even knowing. Obviously, she didn't deserve to not get any kind of recognition till now. And even in this book, we see a lot of Rebecca, and it's like we're still not there, guys. Like Henrietta has not gotten the recognition that she deserves, and it's very, very unfortunate, you know.
yeah, something that Ices brought up was like that it seems like everyone else was kind of immortalized in the story but Henrietta, which is just bringing that irony back from the title
Right? It's
because
like, well, how
Mhm.
yeah.
does that happen, you know?
Yeah, I feel like Rebecca used this book like as her moment to shine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like not like she used Henrietta as like as a step like as a step stool for
Hmm.
her spotlight.
Yeah.
Something I thought was kind of ironic was like in the beginning of the book, very beginning, when she's like, oh, she's learning about it in class, and then her professor like erases the whiteboard. She's like, that's it. And then I feel like kind of at the end of the chapter where it's like we're learning about her, it's like, oh, that's it. And then at the end of the book, you kind of get that
Yeah.
same feeling like, oh, it's kind of ironic that she felt that way about learning about Henrietta. And then the readers
Mm.
also kind of left that
Like,
way.
I will say I do appreciate her dedication
Mm-hmm.
to that like idea and the craft of actually doing this over a decade, and it like took
yeah, that I mean,
time
it's a long time.
of life.
Yeah.
I
And
think like as a journalist, I think she captures what new journalism is essentially supposed to be. She basically pushed for her dreams until she got it. She wrote in a way that I don't think would have been accepted by typical journalism, but I think she really captures the essence, even through all of her faults and all of the
Hmm.
negative things that I did say. I think that she did justice, or to the best of her ability, she did justice to Henrietta Lacks.